My name is Cynthia Pelayo, and this is a reading from Children of Chicago. You said that you're looking for the earliest edition of Grimm's fairy tales that we have? Sarah asked. Right, I actually have seen the book before. I'm not sure if you've acquired any older editions since I saw this last one, but it's that one particular edition that I'm looking for. When were you here last? Lauren thought back to when she was a high school freshman. It must have been 11, 12 years ago? Oh, that is a while back, but you're right. I don't think we've acquired anything new in that area for quite some time. I think what you are looking for is an 1823 copy of German popular stories. It's a first edition, second issue. Lauren wanted to shout, "That's it!" but she restrained herself. I feel like that has to be the one. The problem is, Sarah began, and Lauren's heart started to race. She needed to get hold of that book now. It's actually on display in an exhibit that's due to conclude next week. It's a short exhibit. I can certainly reserve it for you next week. Next week was too late. Someone else would be dead by then. Is there any way else to access the book, perhaps for a private viewing? Sarah chuckled. I don't think so. The curator would be quite displeased if we move anything, considering there was a recent robbery attempt of another rare book after hours. If you provide us with a warrant, we will certainly comply, detective, but otherwise it will have to be until next week, unfortunately. Of course, Lauren could not get a warrant. How was she supposed to explain any of this to Commander McCarthy? It was Monday afternoon. She could not wait another day. After seeing the graffiti in Humboldt Park, she had a feeling, a horrible, suffocating, sinking feeling, that more young people were going to die this week in this city. There was no lawful reason she could present to the librarian for needing this book now. She could not say that this antique book and a rare collection was connected to a greater evil blanketing the city. This book had already destroyed so many lives and would never tire of destroying more. What's wrong, Lauren? Did you forget to pay the piper? Sarah said on the other line, but it no longer sounded like Sarah. Lauren pulled the phone away from her ear as the woman started growling. A long, drawn-out, piercing growl came through the speaker. Lauren flung the phone across the room. It hit the wall with a crash. The dent in the wall was apparent. The screen remained intact. The sound was coming from the guest room mere feet away. Lauren stood up and removed her weapon. She listened as the floorboards moaned under her weight. The slow, repetitive knocking continued. Police, stay where you are. It was a single, rhythmic wait. It was not a rat. A rat would scurry and claw across the floorboards as soon as it heard her voice. This sound was heavier. Lauren pushed the door to the guest room that no one had ever slept in. It did not open into the never-disturbed plain room that was there before. Instead, she found herself staring at her stepmother's music room, perfectly intact the way Lauren remembered it on that last day. The small piano, the cases of musical instruments Diana had shooed her away from so many times. The dozens of harmonicas that Diana had collected over the years were all opened and tossed beneath what was making that thumping sound. The sound of her sister hanging from the ceiling fan in the middle of a room, a rope tied around her neck, eyes bulging, hair dripping wet, her white polo shirt and khaki skirt, the school uniform she drowned in soaked. The ceiling fan's blades beat as Marie swayed. Water rolled down her blue face. Large sheets of water fell from above over her and into a large pile of harmonicas gathered beneath her as if it were being poured over her head. All of Diana's harmonicas were collected beneath Marie as if it was some grotesque variation of a bonfire. Instead of bonfire, metal. Marie's body continued to sway, the fan blades struggling to turn, but unable to against the weight, so it just continued to click away. Lauren fell back. Marie's arms shot out and up, her eyes wider now, bulging and black. One finger pointed to Lauren as water rushed down Marie's contorted and grotesque face. Lauren aimed her weapon, closed her eyes, and fired. She pulled the trigger over and over and over, unloading the weapon into all that she feared. When the gun emptied and the room smelled of smoke, she opened her eyes and found herself looking at an empty guest room and a bullet-ridden wall. There were no musical instruments, there was no piano, there were no harmonicas, and there certainly was no Marie. Just a plain bed, a nightstand, and a ravaged wall, and the smell of gun smoke. Lauren hoped she had finally exorcised the ghost of her sister from her mind, but she knew the specter of death was still here. It was that book. It had always been that book, that damned book. She should not have ignored it for so long, because now it had been opened, and by somebody else. Now she needed to find it and destroy the message within. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much to Sadie for asking me to participate.